The Skyway Bridge just last week. They feature words of encouragement and motivation as well. She says she can't bear the thought of someone feeling alone and says that a sign may be just what someone needs to get the help they need if they're in a dark place.
Even if I'm not physically there to stop somebody, it's something, a sign showing them you're not alone, you can get through this, keep going, it's gonna be okay.
Were taken down just hours after she taped them up. And even though the Florida Department of Transportation knows that her heart is in the right place, it actually has a more permanent plan, more than a dozen plaques with carefully written messages of hope. Those go up next month. Good to see they're taking a stab at it.
Absolutely.
Kelly Dunn here in the studio right now prepping for the 5 o'clock news.
Story of the day, and it was mentioned a little bit earlier in your broadcast. Scientists revealed the first image of the black hole, nearly 55 million light years away.
I know.
Hard to even conceptualize, but it was one person who made this image or these images possible, and we're going to introduce you to the woman who developed the algorithm to capture the picture. It's that hidden figures type of story, and it's quite amazing.
Smart people out there.
I know, I love it.
See you at 5.
Got it.
AT&T has launched 5G service in 19 cities. New places just this week. There's just one problem if you have AT&T. No smartphones can actually use it. Right now, only 2 phones in the U.S. are allowed to use 5G, and they both belong to other service providers. It's the Samsung Galaxy S10 and the LG V50. The Samsung belongs to Verizon, doesn't even have an official release date yet. The LG belongs to Sprint. AT&T says it will get access to 5G phones later this year. Well, people with savings accounts have lost between $500 to $600 billion in interest payments alone. That's according to a Wells Fargo analyst today. He says this happened due to the Federal Reserve's policies put in place following the financial crisis. This came out as 7 bank CEOs, including JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs, testified before Congress today. They brought up the stability of the banking system after the financial crisis. And look, not many people like talking about money, specifically talking about their own debt. A survey by creditcards.com shows 3 out of 10 people are actually more uncomfortable talking about their credit card debt than they are about religion or politics. Experts say it may be helpful to talk to others about debt, and it may help you find a plan to tackle it, and you also might be good for you to just kind of vent to people who are also in the same boat. Well, the FDA is warning doctors against making their chronic pain patients quit prescription opioids cold turkey. Instead, they say doctors and patients should work together to tailor a plan to gradually reduce the dosage. The FDA plans to add labels on those prescription opioids explaining how to taper down safely. Now, doing so too quickly, it can cause withdrawal symptoms and, in some cases, lead to issues like suicide. Prince Harry is partnering with Oprah to create a documentary series on mental health. It'll be on Apple's streaming service. Prince Harry says that the series will inspire viewers to have an honest conversation about their own challenges. Now, the series is going to begin next year. Well, if you've ever considered seeing a mental health provider but maybe held off out of fear of mental health medications, you're not alone. In fact, today we want to introduce you to a woman who had those same concerns. Chris Welch shows us the unique way that she's trying to take the stigma out of mental health and prescription drugs.
Medication surrounding mental health still carries a huge stigma. Just ask any psychiatrist.
There's the idea, again, that they're somehow broken or weak if they need to rely on medications.
Lauren Weiss knows that firsthand.
So I was pretty convinced that I could just tough it out and do it on my own.
She says she's dealt with bipolar disorder for over a decade, but only recently sought medical help. And she wants to make sure others don't wait like she did.
What would be something that would benefit somebody in the position where they have a mental illness and they're too afraid to get help?
Her idea? Buttons. Specifically, buttons with pictures of medications printed on them. She's hoping it promotes a dialogue and can chip away at that stigma.
People can ask you and say, what is that button? And you're willing to say, this is my medication that I take for this mental illness. This is something that has helped me enormously live a more stable life.
She calls it the Wear Your Meds campaign. In just over a month, she's already sold a couple hundred.
It's novel. It's sort of outside the box. It the people who recognize those pills are going to be like, hey, that's my Adderall, you know, and I think it'll help form a community where that's desperately needed.
Psychiatrist Chris Rogers at the Medical Center of Aurora applauds Weiss and encourages anyone who thinks they might need help but are hesitant to talk to a professional.
There are many illnesses and many people who their lives are better. Sometimes it's critical that they're on the right kind of meds, and these medications can be life-saving.
I'm Chris Welch reporting.
Some tense moments after a group of missionaries from South Florida heading to Haiti encountered serious danger. WPTV News Channel 5's Tanya Rogers shares their story of survival. Tanya?
Well, one of the people on the trip was a doctor, and he's traveled the world. He's gone on many mission trips. I met up with him at Delray Medical Center, where he told me his recent trip he will never forget. Pictures of a shattered truck window and a bullet hole, a flat tire after a series of shots fired. A team of missionaries say they were driving to a remote school outside of Port-au-Prince, Haiti on April 4th.
We encountered a roadblock. The road was all blocked off. They had fires burning in the road with tires, debris, sticks, and all that.
Jeff Lee says men on motorcycles carrying guns came up to their windows.
One was driving, the other one on the back had automatic weapons. And after they had shot, the front and the back of the truck, they ran up around the side and they shot into the window where Doug was.
Doug Barbella, a missionary doctor for 30 years, was shot 3 times.
Next thing you know, I'm looking down on my body and I see my arms are going like this.
Doug worried about the shooters and pretended he was dead.
So my driver, I could hear him crying because one of the guys put the barrel in and he put it up to my head. He was going to finish me off. And then the guy apparently showed up out of nowhere and put his hand on the shooter's chest and said no.
The gunman left, the clock ticking to get Doug to a nearby doctor before returning to the U.S.
So I said, I'm going to bleed to death. So I said, in case I do, I said, I want to leave a message to my wife and my son that I love them, which they do, but particularly to my son, who I didn't want to get discouraged and quit his pilot school because he wants to be a missionary pilot.
Almost 15 hours later, Doug was airlifted to Delray Medical Center and happily reunited with his family.
I want to know that God is alive. He's well. He's in control.
Now, Doug had a bullet removed from his cheek. Now, this week he will have surgery to remove a bullet that shattered the cervical vertebrae area. Reporting live, Tanya Rogers, WPTV News Channel 5.
Remarkable story. Tanya, thank you. And thank you for joining us this hour. The news continues on WPTV News Channel 5 at 5 right now.
Now from WPTV, this is News Channel 5 at 5.
New concerns after a third death on the Treasure Coast may possibly be linked to hepatitis A.
A video of a middle school boy taken down by a school resource officer is going viral tonight, but a local sheriff says there is more to this story.
And what was once a quiet little beach town has turned into a construction zone. The changes to Love Street in Jupiter. First, though, a St. Lucie County detective is behind bars tonight after being arrested on charges of sexual assault and battery.
Contact 5's crime investigator Maris Badcock live for us outside the sheriff's office with what we just learned. Maris?
Detective Thomas Johnson has worked for the agency for 16 years, and our records show this is the only Florida law enforcement agency he's ever worked for. But tonight, Sheriff Ken Mascara is apologizing to the public because of Johnson's actions. Now, according to the sheriff, a very brave individual came forward with allegations that Johnson sexually assaulted them back in February. Immediately, they opened an investigation, and this morning, Johnson was arrested. Contact 5 has learned that earlier today, Johnson invoked his right as a law enforcement officer to have his mugshot stricken from public record. But Sheriff Mascara found a loophole. He believes there may be other victims, and under Florida law, a law enforcement officer's photo may be released to help further an investigation.
It is possible this may not have been the first time this type of incident has occurred with him, and I'm asking for anyone who may have been victimized by Deputy Johnson to contact my Criminal Investigation Division at 462-3230.
I've got Detective Johnson's internal affairs reports right here. It shows he's been investigated 12 times by his own agency, not counting the most recent offense. And it includes findings that while wearing a sheriff's office uniform, he made fun of a handicapped person, he interfered with an official investigation, unlawfully used law enforcement records for a non-law enforcement reason, and called out sick when he was actually on a cruise. Live tonight from the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, I'm Maris Badcock, WPTV News Channel 5.